Hi, I'm Andrew, and I'm the General Chair of AI Research Student Conference 2021.
Hi, I'm Jiang, the Tutorial Chair of AI Research Student Conference 2021.
Hi, I'm Zili. I'm the Technical Chair of ARSC, AI Research Student Conference 2021.
Hi, I'm Ishan, Industry Chair of AI Research Student Conference 2021.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all here.
Glad to meet you all.
Glad to meet you all.
AI Student Research Conference allows students, both postgraduate and undergraduate, to have a first-hand experience on academic conference, especially on the field of AI.
This conference gives students a deeper understanding about AI-related industries and also broaden their visions over machine learning.
So we give them this poster-only opportunity for them to create a poster to talk about their work and also do a presentation on their work.
This conference provides students an opportunity to learn by experiencing an actual research conference in the field of AI. Apart from the academic knowledge that will be gained throughout the conference, students will be able to develop connections by networking with like-minded individuals as well as industry professionals.
We are happy that we have received a quite impressive number of submissions in both quantity and quality, and it's really beyond our expectations.
Hi, my name is Lim Keng Hui. I'm from A-Star, specifically the AI, Analytics and Informatics Horizontal Technology Program Office, or AIQ for short. I'm very happy to meet you all at ARSC 2021. This is a fantastic conference that brings us great opportunities to connect with students, to help us learn about the latest and greatest AI research in Singapore, and also to identify possible collaborations with the universities.
Hi, I'm from A-Star. Glad to meet you all at ARSC 2021. ARSC 2021 is a wonderful venue to get connected with talented students. It helps to catch up with current AI academic development.
Hi, I'm Shannon from EY. Glad to meet you all at ARSC 2021. ARSC is a great opportunity for our company to connect with the students and to catch up with the latest AI academic development that the students have to present to us. We believe that having a platform for the students to showcase their work in a spirit of a friendly competition is beneficial for achieving personal growth.
Hi, I'm Colin.
And I'm Gina. Here at NetWata Singapore, we are very excited to connect with all of you during the event and to introduce our companies and products to you.
To learn more about 3D scanning technology, computer vision, and machine learning, do look out for this.
Come and find some great jobs with us. I'm looking forward to meeting all of you talented people.
So come and get more job opportunities with us. Looking forward to meeting up with talents like you all.
Come and get more job opportunities with us. We are looking forward to meeting up with talents like you all.
See you at ARSC 2021.
See you!
See you!
Come and gain more experience on research with us.
Come and gain more experience with us in AI research. See you all in May.
See you all on 14th May.
Okay, thank you everyone. I hope to see all of you at the AI Student Research Conference 2021. Bye.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. May I have you all to be seated as the event will commence shortly. In accordance to COVID-19 measures, please make sure that masks are worn at all times. Before we start, please put your mobile devices to silent or airplane mode if you have not done so. Thank you. Good evening, esteemed panelists and guests, chair and senior management of the School of Electrical and Electronic Engineering, both physical and virtual attendees. Welcome to the first ever AI Research Student Conference opening ceremony. My name is Andrew Ivan Sugeng, a Year 3 student majoring in IEEE. And I am the chair of this year's AI Research Student Conference, and it is my honor to be your MC tonight. So tonight, we will start with an address by the President of Machine Learning and Data Analytics Lab, MLDA for short, followed by an address by the chair of the School of IEEE, continued by a group photograph with the panelists, and last but not least, the panel discussion. We will end off the panel discussion with a round of Q&A, and then we will move on to the virtual career booth. To start off this evening's event, it is now my honor to invite our esteemed panelists up on stage to be seated. Can we please put our hands together to welcome Mr. Richard Ko from Microsoft, Dr. Lim Keng Hui from A*, Mr. Arnold Doray from Terra AI, Mr. Puneet Garg from Carousell, and last but not least, Associate Professor Xudong from NTU. And the moderator for tonight will be Mr. Tuan Chia Fei from MLDA. Now, it is my honor to invite the President of MLDA, Mr. Tuan Chia Fei, to deliver his introductory address. Mr. Tuan, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chia Fei. I'm the current president of the Machine Learning and Data Analytics Lab here at the School of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, for short, MLD at IEEE. First, I would like to welcome everyone to the opening ceremony of the first student-led AI research conference, which is ARSC 2021. And I would like to take this opportunity tonight to share with you what MLDA at IEEE is about and what we have to offer to our students. So MLDA at IEEE is a student-led club that aims to provide a platform to empower NTU students in their pursuit of the application for machine learning, data analytics, and artificial intelligence. We do so through our 3 pillars, which is to learn, apply, and connect. MLDA at IEEE has a physical lab space and is equipped with some of the state-of-the-art computational resources to support our students' learning journey of machine learning and data analytics. And as a student-led club, all of our operations, workshops, events, and activities are solely driven by the students and supported by the school. MLDA at IEEE is also one of the first school-level club that's open to all faculties across the university, both the undergraduate and the postgraduate. This is because machine learning and data analytics is an inclusive field, so does MLDA at IEEE. As mentioned previously, MLDA at IEEE aims to facilitate students' learning journey of machine learning and data analytics through learn, apply, and connect. Hence, since our establishment in 2018, we have organized over 50 various machine learning workshops that spread across a wide range of domains. It covers from natural language processing, reinforcement learning, to computer vision. Our professional trainers has also been engaged by external companies such as Morata to conduct some of their machine learning workshops. Beyond our academic training, we are also keen to keep our students up to date with the latest research effort and innovation in machine learning and artificial intelligence. Hence, we have our Machine Learning Insider series, our AI broadcast, whereby we have the opportunity to invite some of the renowned speakers that are expert in their respective domain to conduct a sharing for our students. For example, we were fortunate to actually invite Mr. Charles Yeo, the CEO of an AI startup company that helps NASA with their efforts on the Martian helicopter mission. And Dr. Terra, who is one of the leading experts in the field of language-based transformer and happens to be a current Google research scientist. Beyond all this, MLDA at IEEE also wants to help our students to apply what they have learned into a project. Hence, we support any proposed machine learning and AI project that they would like to embark on. And these range from a wide range of in-house projects, such as post-estimation for drone detection, to mask-wearing detection system, and even our very own version of a self-driving car. Alternatively, we aim to elevate our students' technical capability to international standard. Hence, we actively encourage our members to take part in the various hackathons, both locally and abroad. I'm happy to share with you that some of our students even managed to emerge as winners of these prestigious competitions. Lastly, we work very closely with all our industry partners to bring to our students industry ad hoc projects, final year projects, and internship opportunities. And it's through this we help them to further connect our students to the industry and showcase our talented pool of students. Beyond advocating competitions, MLD at IEEE also organize our very own in-house hackathon, datathon, and challenges that aims to spark the passion and interest for NTU student population in machine learning and data science. And we are fortunate to be sponsored by many of our industry partners. On an annual basis, we also have this event called the Deep Learning Week, which started in 2019. And in 2020, we organized our Deep Learning Week 2020, which is one of the largest AI events in Singapore. Not only we are fortunate to invite a panel of esteemed panelists to join us in a discussion on how AI has changed the post-COVID world, but also we have the privilege to invite the then Minister in charge of the Smart Nation Initiative, Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan, as our guest of honor. The one-week-long event has garnered much attention with over 1,000 virtual participants. So moving forward to tonight's event, this is our first annual AI Research Student Conference. And the purpose of this conference is to promote AI research among students and provide them with their first experience in an AI research conference. The 3 days conference will not only comprise us of today's panel discussion and virtual job fair, but we also have a list of exciting events lined up in store for all of you. From our AI challenge to international keynote speech and our tutorial session conducted by some of the top professors from across the 5 autonomous universities in Singapore. And finally, to end off all with our AI poster competition, which helps to showcase our talented students' research work. So, without further ado, I hope to see all of you throughout these 3 days of virtual event, and hopefully in the future to meet you in person in one of our MLD at IEEE event. So do follow us on our social media and keep an update with our latest AI event and opportunity. And I hope that everyone has a great evening ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tuan, for the insightful speech. Now, it is my privilege to invite the chair of the School of Electrical and Electronic Engineering, Professor Tan Yap Peng, to deliver his welcome address. Professor Tan, please.
Good evening, all the students, participants of this ARSC 2021. Welcome. About 65 years ago, right, there were 4 gentlemen. One mathematician from Bell Lab, one assistant professor, one junior fellow at Harvard, and one research manager from IBM. And they proposed to organize a summer workshop at a small town called Hanover. At the time, the town has about 7,000 population. The workshop originally planned for 2 months with 10 participants. The main objective of the workshop was to study how to develop thinking machines and how to make such machines to learn, to solve problems, and to become more intelligent. And that proposal asked for $13,500 US from Rockefeller Foundation to pay for all the expenses of the participants for the 2 months get together. Although originally paying for about 10 participants, the workshop eventually attended by 30 or more because not all of them came per invitation or full-time. But only 3 of them, actually including 2 of the organizers, stayed the full 8 weeks period. And some of them just came for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or even just a few hours. They occupied the entire floor of the mathematics department, the top floor. During the daytimes, someone would stand up to discuss his or her ideas, and people would join the discussion, and sometimes it will become a general discussion. While at the end, the workshop did not solve any specific so-called problems that aimed for by the proposer, it did create some interest, so-called directions, and leave behind a long-lasting impact. So today, the workshop is widely known as the birth of the AI research field. And that happened in this Dartmouth College in the summer of 1956. And the workshop showed that people with same interest and strong belief, when they get together under a relaxed or free environment, and they can do wonderful things. So this conference, so when Jiang shared with me that the MLDA Club was thinking of organizing the first ever student research conference in Singapore, I was very excited and provided my full support. Because in EEE, many of our professors, researchers, and students have been using machine learning and AI techniques to solve different kinds of problems, all kinds of problems under EEE. For example, smart materials, electronics, photonics, IC design, quantum computing, automation and control, intelligent transportations, smart manufacturing, autonomous vehicles, smart buildings, right? Many, image, video processing, advanced sensing, communication, compression, just some of them. So the techniques have indeed become indispensable to our professors, students, and researchers. So this conference is timely and kind of show that the wide interest of our students, professors, and researchers. And I would like to thank the organizing committees for taking this very important initiative, putting all their efforts, in particular in this challenging time. I believe that COVID-19 has forced the organizing committee to scale back their original plan, but this is still a very amicable initiative. My thanks also go to all the students, speakers, panelists, who have taken the time to participate in this important event. Finally, I wish all of you a very fruitful and successful workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Tan, for the welcome speech. Now, I would like to invite Prof. Tan to take a group photograph with the guest panelists. May I invite the panelists on stage to rise and move one step forward. Okay. kindly return to your seat. Thank you, Professor Tan. We will now move on to the next segment, which is the panel discussion. The topic of tonight's discussion is the new AI research landscape of Singapore. I would now hand over my time to Mr. Tuan Jiafei for the panel discussion. Mr. Tuan, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So first of all, I'd like to welcome everyone that stayed for the panel discussion that's happening right now. So as Andrew mentioned, the topic of today's panel discussion is on AI landscape in Singapore, or maybe for now, the new AI landscape of Singapore. And we are fortunate to be joined by esteemed panelists from the various industry in Singapore that covers different aspects of AI research. So before we start, I'd like to give our panelists an opportunity to share with our virtual audience at home a bit about yourself and also the organization that you represent. So maybe we can start off with Mr. Arnold, and we can go one round. Yeah, the mic is on.
Hi guys, good to be here. Thank you, Jeffrey, for organizing this. My name is Arnold. I'm from Terra AI. What we do is we do AI for forecasting, to try to forecast the future. We actually come from a weather forecasting company, so that's actually part of our DNA forecasting and prediction. And that's really, that's really for me.
Hi, my name is Keng Hui, and I'm from A-Star. A-Star is the largest public sector R&D organization in Singapore. So specifically, I run the Institute of High Performance Computing, where we focuses on computational modeling, simulation, and AI. Thank you.
All right, so first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Richard Koh. I'm the Chief Technology Officer here at Microsoft Singapore. A little bit of what I do, I look after all the aspects of kind of technology policies and adoption over here in this specific country itself, representing Microsoft, and really share a lot about what Microsoft priorities and things like that, for example, is here. And also looking at what's Singapore adoption of technologies, as well as some of its progress as well, and collaborating with a lot of our corporate colleagues as well in this space. So very happy to be here and looking forward to the panel discussion. Thank you.
I can try again. Hello everyone. Yeah, okay, thank you. My name is Puneet. I am head of data science at Carousell. I hope most of you know what Carousell is. It's a C2C marketplace. Our mission is to inspire everyone to start selling and buying from each other. As a head of data science, me and my team's responsibility is to leverage the power of data and AI to fulfill this mission. Before joining Carousell, I was Richard's colleague at Microsoft. So I worked at Microsoft in the AI group as part of their search engine and personal assistant team. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. So I'm Xudong from School of the IEEE NTU. So my traditional research area is in the image recognition and the traditional approach of the machine learning. I just moved to the AI or deep learning around 4 years ago. Like most professors, at the beginning don't believe deep learning and gradually move also into this area. But now I am happy to see more and more even old professors also move to this area. It seems there's no choice. Maybe later we will discuss further in this some related issue. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, our panelists, for sharing with our virtual audience at home a bit about themselves. And before we start official, I'd like to invite you, audience at home, to actually post your question in the Q&A chat anytime throughout the panel discussion. And the panelists will be taking some of your questions towards the end of our panel discussion. So before we start to discuss about the AI research landscape, we are actually fortunate, as I mentioned, to be joined by a list of experts, panelists from the various branch of AI research. We have Prof. Jiang from the academia, we have Mr. Richard and Mr. Arnold from the industry, Dr. Lim from the research institutes, and Mr. Puneet from the start side of things. So maybe my first question, and I think it's most fitting to ask the first question, which is, based on your experience and in your respective industry, what is your opinion of the current state of AI research in Singapore? And also, how does the COVID might have a paradigm shift on this current state? So any taker for the question? Anyone, feel free, can just jump in. Yeah.
I think I can start, and then we'll request others to join in. So as I shared, like the industry I am working in is retail or e-commerce. And it's very interesting how e-commerce has shaped up in the last few years, especially what COVID has done to it. On one side, when we look at Carousell, a lot of our interactions happen on meetups at MRTs and other places, which was avoided by people during COVID. But at the same time, people shifted to more delivery based transactional options. Now, coming to the AI landscape, in the last few years, I believe I have observed quite a few AI startups emerging that have a significant contributions to the domain of retail and e-commerce. It can be something around computer vision, like deeply understanding what this product is about, especially in the domain of fashion. I mean, that's leading the pack in terms of the deep understanding of product and content. Similarly, in terms of personalization, that's another very interesting space where today it's expected. Every user expects that their experience will be tailor-made for them. They do not feel comfortable with generic experiences. You have very little attention span that you get from your users, and if you can't catch their attention, they will be gone. So personalization is another important research area that I have seen emerge and evolve over the last few years. And third, I think very interesting observations around logistics and operations, whether it is around chatbots or for customer support, or around logistics in terms of directing your inventory. Significant research happening in this space, and a significant AI adoption happening in this space also, not just research. So these are few areas where I have felt in the last few years there is significant growth in adoption and research in AI.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to add on to this?
So maybe I'll chip on.
Sure.
Well, AI is really very, very hot now. And so in my line of work, I meet with a lot of companies and of different types. So it used to be that in the past, a material science company would come to look for us for collaboration material science, a consumer care company in consumer care. But now, I would say every company that I meet, since the past 2 to 3 years, every company wants to do AI. It's very, very hot. So A-Star also gives out a lot of scholarships where we send bright young talents overseas for training, bachelor degree, master's, PhD. And the other trend which I noticed is that all the returning scholars, almost everyone now wants to do AI also. So I would say that right now this area is very, very hot. And despite the interest, we actually have a lot more demand for talents than we have supply for talents. And I think this is where conferences like this, the AI, the MLDA club would be very, very useful in order to generate talent, passion for this particular area.
Jaffe, maybe I'll chime in here. Let me try and take this maybe slightly different direction as you were talking about kind of like the landscape itself of AI research. I think as I was looking at the different work that the Institute of Higher Learnings that are doing here, I think it's really encouraging to see not only the applied nature of artificial intelligence in various industries, but also I think some of the foundational aspect of things like explainability, transparency, and things like that. I thought those were very encouraging. I think as we think about how we are leveraging intelligent technology into whether it's business processes or some of our consumer experiences, for example. I think, or financial services for that matter, I think a lot of the research that needs to happen around transparency, explainability, and accountability itself is very important. So at Microsoft, when we think about these kind of applications of AI itself, I think we also think about what are the sensitive use cases that are out there and what are the potential challenges that it can run into when we think about applying those intelligent technology. Not only can it solve some of society's biggest challenge, but also sometimes the potential unintended consequences as well. So I think that is also another area of research that's been happening. We see it with for example, the Monetary Authority of Singapore pushing out some of the principles around ethical AI, for example, and with PDPC, I think those are areas that certainly do require us as a society to have more debates and discussions around that. And I think that would also translate to some of the activities that can happen in the research space as well.
If you're a student, for example, and I mean, right now a lot of you are from home viewing this panel discussion, and I guess a lot of you are like, graduating, or maybe you're thinking to yourself, how can I get on this AI bandwagon? Should I go into research? What should I do? Should I go into very fundamental stuff like explainability, or perhaps even how do you implement AI in hardware and so on, right? And I would suggest that in order for AI to explode, to be adopted, what's lacking is more people like yourselves, maybe having an AI plus. So let's say, for example, if you're an engineer or you're a chemist, or you're a physicist, right? You should be looking at how to apply AI in that area of study or area that you're interested in. So I think where AI becomes really interesting is when it becomes mainstream, and it can only become mainstream if more people learn where it can be applied in their own area of learning or studying.
Yeah, you can just go.
In fact, the current wave of the AI or the current wave of the machine learning, the deep learning, is driven by the industry. So most academic people somehow working slowly into this area, although we have a few pioneer research in the academic, but most academic professors move to this area slowly. But currently, I'm happy to say that a lot of professors already move in this area. For example, this year's FYP, I examined 10 FYP projects. All are related to the machine learning of the AI. And even the MHC dissertations, I examined 5 MHC dissertations and 10 FYP projects. All are related to machine learning and AI. So it seems that in our 12E, although the AI is more related to computer science, but in our 12E, professors, I believe currently more than 70% of the professors already moved to the area directly or indirectly related to the AI.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your thoughts on the insights of what the current landscape of Singapore's AI research is. So I think over the past 1 year, it has been a very interesting year. Singapore started with the circuit breaker in last year, April, then followed with the reopening of the society and economic. And now today, just as today, Minister Lawrence have announced for the transition back to a heightening alerts phase 2. And so the next question that we would like to ask our panelists here is that with this current unstable of global turmoil due to COVID-19, would this actually bring about AI into a next AI winter, or does it actually mean for upcoming AI spring for AI research, from your perspective? Any taker for the question? Yeah, Prof. Jiang.
I think now is already AI spring. It's not after the COVID-19. Yeah, but in my opinion, the AI is somehow, AI has three pillars. One is the infrastructure, such as chip industry, because we need computer capacity, right? This is related to the hardware. The second one is data, to connect the data. And the third one, I think, is also most critical one is algorithm. And for the algorithm research, it is more like individual research. So people can, working at home, has no problem to generate some creative, novel ideas and try verify some ideas to somehow improve the method. So the algorithm creation by the nature is more suitable for individual effort. This is in my opinion. Yeah.
I'll love to add on to that. I like Prof. The way he said that this is AI spring already. I think it's great. It's clearly from Microsoft's viewpoint is that when as cloud computing has empowered a lot of industries and researchers, students to leverage that power of vast amount of compute storage and processing power itself. I think this is a time, and COVID-19 itself has really proven as an event in our human history that various aspects of intelligent technology or artificial intelligence has been applied to solve different problems. I think if, I don't know how's the panelist situation here, but I've got 2 jabs in my arms already for a vaccine that didn't quite exist, literally about a year ago. And to think that we are doing this in this kind of format, it's also a triumph of many aspects of what we have done to try and control this pandemic. It's not easy, absolutely not. Do we think of this as a single event in our human history? No. I think we're just going to be going through this and accepting it as part of life for a while. But I think when we try to think about solving society's different challenges as presented by COVID-19, whether it's the digital divide, whether it's it getting vaccines to the right set of populations in different countries itself, I think we are dealing with a huge amount of data that we have to look at. And there's no amount of humans that we can throw at the challenges to be able to solve this. So I think the application of machine learning and all of that, it's going to help us a lot to get through this. And there is no doubt in our minds that when we are going through this pandemic, just the sheer amount of digital transformation that has happened, like literally 2 years worth in like 2 months, we're going to see a lot of progress that we're making in a shorter amount of time than we have ever seen before. So I'm really optimistic that we're going to get through this. I think hopefully we'll see a lot more organization being like deliberate and intentional about applying some of this technology, while in the back of their minds really thinking about some of the unintended consequences that I mentioned earlier as well. But certainly, I'm very optimistic that this will bring us to the next level when it comes to the application of AI.
So I agree with Richard on many points. So in fact, so last year during the height of the pandemic, now before that we've been working with a particular hospital to see whether we could apply AI in the part of their diagnostics. So then the discussion has been going on for a very long time. Things were moving very slowly. Then lo and behold, pandemic hits. Then what happened is that there's a lot more patient than there is for doctors who could do the diagnostics. So then, because we are already collaborating, so the hospital management then decided that we have to do this. So we actually did finally deploy an AI system in the hospital as part of their X-ray system within a matter of months, just 2 to 3 months. The IT security folks, the the X-ray vendors, ourselves went in, and then look at the problem, and then deploy it within a matter of months, which otherwise in a normal period would actually have taken probably years. So I just want to say that I think in many ways the pandemic has actually accelerated this whole adoption, this whole acceptance of AI as well as digital technology. My colleagues from the other clinical institutions also told us that telehealth, telemedicine is a lot more widely accepted now, primarily because no choice, but also because the people are beginning to accept that this is actually a very good way of essentially uplifting society, making technology much more available to others. So I'm actually very optimistic that COVID might actually accelerate this whole digitalization in many aspects. Yeah, just like the semiconductor crunch that we are seeing today, where chips are anticipated to be in demand or shortage of supply for the next couple of years. I think this pandemic is going to accelerate that. Thank you.
So the question is, will COVID dampen down AI, or will it make it better, right? And I agree with the professor, we're definitely in an AI spring right now. And the question is, will COVID make that spring even better into a summer, or will we go from skip summer and go back into winter, right? I think it's most likely that, let's look at the effects of COVID on daily living. Most of us right now are working from home, or maybe even starting from home. So I think that aspect of working from home, there's so many things. There's things like buying things. You can buy online better. People would demand more customized service, as the gentleman from Carousell mentioned. That's really important. How can AI be used to actually make living from home, working from home better and more effective? That's one way. One thing I think AI will actually play a big role in. The other thing is in actually delivering services at scale, things like medicine, things like perhaps even services like advisory services, for example, where you can't meet with a person face to face, where it doesn't scale very well. And I think what COVID has done is to change our perception about what can be done and what can't be done. Previously, for example, a conference like this, where most of the room is empty and most of you at home, would be unthinkable, right? But now, today, it's completely natural. And so I think it's actually changing our mindsets about what's possible and what's not possible. My own company, for example, we have not been working in the office for more than a year now, right? So it's completely from home for more than a year. And it's fine, it actually works fine. So I think the way AI will come in is really in customization and making working from home or learning from home even better. So I mean, like learning from home, it could be like education. How do you keep track of your kids? How does AI engage or perhaps teach? Or maybe as an enhancement for teaching. There's a lot of new opportunities. So I think COVID, of course, it's a horrible thing that's happened to the world, but it certainly has opened up, I think, a lot of opportunities for AI to go into.
So I think necessity is the mother of invention holds true. Unfortunately, COVID has created various necessities for innovation at scale in a democratic manner that works for every common man and not just for certain small segments of society. And I think that's where AI can really shine in terms of coming to the rescue, helping even small, like making life simpler and easier in every small way. I'll give you a very simple example. Like today, Zoom calls or Google Hangouts have become the de facto way of communication. And imagine how useful the blurred background feature is. Who would have used that feature maybe like a year back? But now it's like bread and butter. You can't imagine, because you have kids roaming around, you don't want them to interfere, but at the same time, it's the new reality and it's the new normal that we have to live with. At the same time, I would like to also add that AI, the term is highly used and highly abused. It's very hard to now differentiate what's AI, what's not AI. I mean, it's possible to say that even calculator is an AI because it's intelligent, but is it really AI? So we have to be a little careful when we say that what is AI, what is not AI, and not all automation is not AI. So yes, there will be a lot of need for automation, but doesn't mean that every automation is AI. So we have to be a little bit careful around what we attribute as AI and what is not AI.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you to all our panelists for sharing with us their thoughts. And I guess everyone here is very optimistic about the AI's future. And in fact, as what Prof. Jiang mentioned, we are in the AI spring. So I think that leads me to my next question. So in the early stage of AI, it's something that not a lot of people actually foresee coming. In fact, as what Professor Tan mentioned in his speech, it started with some pioneers, people like Professor Hinton, Professor Yen Le-Kun, and Benju, leading this effort in terms of research, which at the early stage was not very well received, and making a prediction that AI's future will be optimistic in the decades to come. So my question for our panelists here is that, what do you think will be the next great leap forward in AI research or AI technology in the decades to come? Anyone want to give their own prediction to that?
Maybe it is very hard to predict in the decade, in one decade, but currently I believe AI should be some kind of the revolutionary approach to solve the problem in our society. If we think about what is AI, so I think AI is based, that is a machine or the computer based on the observation to make a decision. Right, and like our human brains work, we see something or hear something, then we make a decision. But we need the machine to do that. Now, AI, in fact, has a very long history of the research. But before the introduction of the machine learning into the AI, so the AI research working very slowly, not successfully somehow applied to solve the real problem. This is because traditionally the AI approach is rule-based or based on the mathematical derivation or logic derivation to get the decision, to make a decision. But in the real data, it is so complicated, the variation is so complex, so it is almost impossible we can figure out a rule one by one and then to reach the final decision. So this is why comes out this machine learning. We need the machine to learn the variation, to learn the very complicated real data. So need the machine to make a decision. But the machine learning in the 1980s, the neural network is already very hot, but cannot solve the problem because the machine learning in that time somehow overfit the training data, has poor generalization. But now, because of this deep learning, this CNN introduced to the AI area, so it solves the real data pretty well. So this brings us a big revolutionary lever to solve the real data problem. So I believe this trend will go further to at least several years, up to 10 years. But more than 10 years, it may be difficult to predict that. Yeah.
So maybe I just hazard a guess. No one can predict what's going to happen in the next 5 years, let alone the next 50 years or 30 years, right? But if you look at the past, the big changes have happened with increasing computing power. So a lot of AI right now, it's only possible. In fact, a lot of the techniques we use right now in AI were invented a long time ago in the 80s, 50s, 60s, right? And we're just applying bigger models and a different computer architectures, right? So maybe in the 1990s or the early 2000s, people were using CPUs to train AI models. Now no one uses those things. They use GPUs instead. But what if we could make that even faster? So I think there are one or two directions that could go. The first is perhaps how do we train up models faster? There are some basic operations like matrix multiplication and other stuff which can be sped up. Do we have to use electricity, for example, or semiconductors to actually perform these things? Can we use photonics like light to do these calculations, to make it train faster, for example? It's possible, but that's, I think, an area of research, and I think it might happen in the next 5-10 years, because AI is such a compelling use case that it will actually further research into these areas. So the other part I feel is that a lot of the techniques we're seeing right now don't really, they're not really going towards a place where AI understands things. So I think if you talk about deep understanding in a way, right, can AI be thought to really understand subject matter and perhaps to even teach other AIs in a way, right? So I think that could be an area of new research.
Yeah, so within A-Star, we are putting a lot of emphasis broadly in, so there's many areas of interest. One of the few strains that we are going towards is largely in the area of synergy, resiliency, sustainability. Because the AI has to really work for humans, create value for humans, maximize the human potential, the human creativity, productivity. So I think this is where the human-AI synergy, human-machine synergy is very important. So internally, we are looking at research in the human-machine collaboration, so that the machine, in a way, is helping, contributing, creating value for the human. And we've got much research in that area. I think the second one is really related to resiliency as well as safety. Because if you want AI to eventually be proliferated and also to be used in mission critical or healthcare applications, so you really need to develop AI that is safe, and which is, like what some of the panelists mentioned, it could account for biasness, explainability, and it could also, be robust and resilient enough to deal with, edge cases, especially where the training data for some of the edge cases unused for some of the training. And then finally, I think there's been a lot of talks about sustainability, about how bigger and bigger models are creating a lot of drain. You're ever going to be using bigger computers, bigger GPUs, supercomputers in order to train those big models. So I think there's also going to be now more and more emphasis looking into sustainability, looking into how do you make AI a lot more efficient, so that it could develop smaller models, like lighter weight models that could eventually consume much less power, especially when digitalization is now making devices everywhere. But if you have very power hungry algorithms and devices, you're going to essentially aggravate the whole situation. So I think we're broadly going into some of these synergy areas, resiliency areas, safety, sustainability areas.
So I think AI is still at a pretty nascent stage. I think 10 years back, we could not have predicted what deep learning could do. Maybe it's like what internet was 20 years back when the bubble burst happened. Nobody could know or predict what internet will eventually become. Or 40 years back when, say, PC revolution happened, nobody would have predicted that it will, like tomorrow we will be carrying a PC in our pocket, a very smart PC in our pocket. Or maybe like as Andrew says, like maybe it's like electricity. What electricity was 100 years ago, we could not have predicted what electricity can do at that time. So it's, again, hard to predict. Like today we think about logistic regression or simple like SVM as classical machine learning, and deep learning is the new thing. Maybe 10 years later we will say, oh, deep learning, CNN and all is the classical machine learning, and there's something new, even bigger and better. And what Professor said earlier, I think that resonates with me, that there are three things which are important for an AI success: the data, the big data, the compute power, and the algorithms. Now, interestingly, like Microsoft and other such companies are democratizing the cloud computing. So that's great for AI. Also, algorithms, I think there's such a great research community and such a good trend around open source and sharing your research that I don't worry about the algorithm part also, because people are investing, there is supply, research is happening, and research is being shared. But I'm not sure about the data part, because there are some certain big companies that might have a lot of data, and then many other companies, unless they also have access to that kind of big data or real world user data, or not just the data of the world, right? Like that is being collected by so many billions and trillions of sensors, they might not be able to do the right advancements in the AI for the right purposes. So I would like to see how the data gets democratized, for AI to be really democratized over the next decade. And things like, today, how can AI help AI? A lot of AI success is around supervised learning today, where you need label data to even train the model. But can AI help label that data for the other AI? Or can we train AI with very little data instead of like all the transfer learning based work? I think will be very interesting to see how you can learn a very intelligent model with very little data, just like kids learn. Or around things like unsupervised learning, like things what like GP2, GPT3 are doing, where they're just learning how to learn, not just being told much. Of course, in a much more efficient manner, not like kind of really boiling the ocean. So, I mean, these are very interesting aspects that would play an important role on how AI shapes over the next decade.
I really like those points that you brought up. I think when you think about just the data aspect of it, historically, yes, we have a lot of data that, different, whether it's different companies or organizations that accumulate. But inherently, in the data itself, there's always biases that exist, no matter what we say, right? How much there's no bias or anything like that, and I think that's a fundamental challenge for a lot of us, whether it's practitioners or organizations trying to deploy this. Because at the end of the day, I think what we're trying to do as an organization is really think about and advance these 6 principles that we've been talking about around responsible AI, whether it's around fairness, inclusiveness, reliability and safety, privacy and security, transparency and accountability itself. And then looking at these 6 principles and the technologies that come in to support that or come in to advance the human ingenuity around that, whether is it around homomorphic encryption, differential privacy, for example. I think some of the techniques and some of the technologies will help with that and advance the adoption as well as trustworthiness of artificial intelligence in itself. And I think this is a very big, exciting space. So what it means for, let's say, students who's watching online today is that the space is still huge for a lot of different students to take interest in different areas to be able to advance in this space itself. So it's not something that is very narrow. It still has a lot of ways to go. And certainly I think we have the opportunity to advance the technology in such a way that it will be beneficial in many, many different areas, and especially some of the pressing society challenges that we have. Sustainability, that's a great example, right? We just got this planet. We haven't figured out how to transport the whole entire population over to Mars. So it's gonna take a while. So we gotta figure out some of these challenges, and machine learning, artificial intelligence is definitely going to be playing a big part in solving that.
Okay, thank you to our panelists for sharing with us their thoughts on what might be the next big thing for AI in the decades to come. Of course, I think we have already reached a stage of maturity in AI in terms of as our speaker mentioned, supervised learning, unsupervised learning, even towards reinforcement learning. And maybe there has been a lot of focus on the idea of AI sustainability, AI ethics, and AI for good. So it's general AI that can be implemented for various purposes. So with that, we have concluded our questions for the panelists, and we'll be answering some of the questions posed by our virtual audience. And I think a lot of them are very eager to actually ask our panelists some of the questions. And I think there's one common question, I think a lot of, shares a lot of sentiment with our virtual audience, and that is there a need for a higher degree education, be a PhD or a master, for someone to actually take on a role in AI research? Because we know that there is people that actually can publish quite good paper during undergraduate level, or even some of them not even in undergraduate, still are able to conduct AI research. So from your point of view, do you think that a higher education degree is the entry point to AI research? Any takers on that?
Well, actually, I don't think so, because tools are becoming a lot more democratized. For example, like some of the panelists mentioned that there's a lot more tools being available in the cloud. And also there are now tools being available in which you do not require programming skills. So I think the other thing also is that without going into having to get a PhD or a master's, there's also a lot of now either online courses available in which people could sign up. For example, like the Stanford course by Andrew Ng, it's one of the most popular courses where people could just go. And then there's so much, I think, resources now being made available in the web that I think almost anyone with the interest can even go there. And I think the very interesting point, which we also recently learned, is that even in schools in Singapore in particular, students are being taught programming actually at a very young age already. So I think we're going to see a lot more digital natives in future, where anything digital is going to come very, very natural. They could just go to the web to get access to learning materials, get access to tools which they could use. If they want to go programming, they could. There's a lot of freewares available. If they don't want to pick up programming, there's also a lot of tools being available. So I think now is an opportunity where resources, training, education, and all that are so democratized and so common that without a formal degree of higher education, I think almost anyone with a passion can really jump on board.
I think if I can clarify one thing, there's a difference between AI adoption or applied AI work and AI research. If your question is around AI research, that's different from you doing applied AI. I agree with what he mentioned around if you want to be a applied AI person, there is not a need for you to go for higher studies, do a PhD. There's so much content available which can help you get started. But I do believe that if you want to go deeper into the AI research, where you are coming up with some new algorithms or new ways of doing AI, it requires a different mindset and different environment. Now, I'm not saying that a PhD is the only way to do it, but it's not something you can just learn by attending a few courses online, in my opinion. It requires a good environment in the sense that if, let's say, you are working at a research lab in an organization where you have other people around who you can work with, collaborate with, that's the right environment to do AI research. Or if you are able to get such an environment at a university, that's great. But if you are working in, let's say, an organization where you are working on applied AI, you are always thinking about how can this AI can help solve this problem for the user or for the business. You might make some progress on the research, but that might not be the right conducive environment for a deep AI research. That's my opinion on this.
Okay, so we may first listen the opinion from the industry. So in my opinion, the answer is definitely yes. So in the AI area, we need a lot of higher degree graduates, PhDs and masters. One sense, I think we should not be confused by the so-called black box of the AI. So even the very young people can get training machine to do the work. It is somehow very low level go into this machine learning training and get the result. So this we have different two opposite aspect in this issue. One thing is, although this AI currently is more on arts than the science, because nowadays we have the deep learning, we have the neural network model. So the most work is just to do some different architecture, put some component, and then let the machine to learn that. It seems there's no much theoretical support or strong reasoning for many AI algorithms. But if you want to make the AI work better, then we need solid foundations to create a new model. Because anyway, this AI is called artificial intelligence. It needs intellectually product. So we need to go in depth to understand. Only go to in depth understand, we can create something. It is will work better than current approach. Because the AI is also different from some other area. In the AI system, it is not say a system can do something or cannot do something. It is, we should say, how better the system can work. Because the AI, current AI always cannot go to 100% of the correct, because we are handling the real data, right? So how to make the AI system more robust, more accurate? This is always the issue in the AI industry. So we can always make the sense better. So to make the sense better, we need deeper understand various issue and the technique behind this AI system. So in here, if we want to get the innovative, creative, new model to let the AI system work better, we need higher degree education to somehow make somehow better training of the young students to get the solid foundations in this area.
Yeah. So Jaffe, I think that's a great question from the audience. It's always like there's always multiple schools of thoughts on what one should pursue. I think it's a very individual decision, and it all depends on the kind of environment that the individual is looking for as well. Whether is it in academia or whether is it in the industry itself, and depending on the individual, what that individual, that student, is really looking for. In terms of this area of research or apply research itself, I think the answer depends on that individual. Now, the other thing that sometimes I think about is that what is the future of organizations going to look like? And I think we have this, sometimes as humans, we think that organizations kind of stay the same, stagnant for a while. But if you think about it, is academia going to change? Is institutes of higher learning going to change? Is organizations going to change themselves fundamentally as well? We're seeing quite a fair bit of AI research that has moved into the industry, if you will. I think over the past number of years, and that's sometimes a different set of factors that plays into that, whether is it economics or talent or anything like that. So I would say that it's not a straightforward answer to that question. I think a lot depends on that individual and what that person is looking for, and the kind of institutions and organizations that are around that perhaps can empower the person to really pursue what that individual is seeking for. So whether it be in academia or industry, I think it really depends on that person.
So if you're a student and you have an opportunity to do research in AI, then if you like it, you should take the opportunity up, right? But if, let's say, your priorities right now are to find a job and to get into the workforce, into industry, then it doesn't mean that the AI door is closed for you. In fact, sometimes getting the right industry experience can be actually very beneficial for future research, right? We had an intern about 3 years ago, and she came from a math background, and she was very good. She did a lot of AI work for us. And when she graduated, she actually found a job at a machine vision company. And while she was there, she actually, quickly rose up the ranks to become a team leader. And she was actually managing, a team leader for a group of PhDs, right? She was in that job for about a few years, and then she decided to come out and do her PhD. So right now, she's actually doing her PhD at a local university here, in AI, obviously. So it's never too late. So it really depends on your path and what door you want to take.
Okay, so thank you for the insightful sharing on your thoughts on whether do we really require a higher educational degree to actually pursue AI. So I guess to just summarize what the panelists are saying, I think it's really a very subjective topic. I mean, it's really determined based on the individual. Are you someone that's more into applied AI, or are you into more of a research-based AI? So of course, the different requirement requires different skill sets. So I guess for the next question that our audience have for our panelists here today is that I think it comes back to the idea of AI winter. So I mean, AI winter came about due to the fact of lack of computational resources, and also because of the limit of computational resources. So computer will one day reach its limit in terms of the size of the transistor, how much it can go, and that will definitely affect the development of AI. So from your point of view, from your organization, are you guys actually preparing for that day or one day where the computational resources reach its cap, and that also stops the advancement of AI research, and maybe there might be a third AI winter in the years ahead? So I think it's a very deep question from our audience, just to hear some thoughts from our panelists.
I think on one side, that there's a lot that we can do using AI, leveraging AI with the what current computations can support. So it's not that we need to be worried that, we are already maximizing what AI can do today, and hence we need to worry about what more it can do tomorrow. Rather, the application of what AI can do today, there is so much scope of first utilizing that and taking it to its full potential. So I'm not worried about that scenario, first of all. But even if we kind of hypothetically think about it, then that's where the research or the opportunity around maybe quantum lies. Maybe we go beyond what our current laws of physics stop us, and then that might be another wave which might be even like 10x or 100x bigger than what we are seeing today. So I think, again, necessity will be the mother of invention. As once we reach there, we will figure it out.
Yeah, I just agree that we are nowhere near reaching the limit of what existing technology can actually do. So I think the problem we face right now is to actually flesh out the applications, the algorithms, and so on. And the previous AI winter was actually caused by a lot of hype. And behind that hype, there were other problems. There was a lack of data, a lack of computing power, and also a lack of algorithms. So it's a different situation right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a different situation right now. I don't think that we're going to see another winter. If anything, it might be slowing down, because there also is a lot of hype today. But I think in terms of the questions on will we run out of computing power, so I think humans are very creative. We'll always be coming out with new architectures also, such as quantum that the speaker mentioned. There's also new emerging architectures, non-volumen architectures coming out. So I think that in the area of the infra, the hardware, the algo, the data, there will continue to be a lot of things to be done in order to push the state of the art.
So definitely support that. I think quantum computing is gonna help with that as well. I think we're not gonna see that kind of limits for a while. I'll just provide a tongue-in-cheek answer in that we're gonna have challenges with our planet first before we run out of all the compute resources itself. So I think we should be fine for a while. I think we've got a lot of other challenges and a lot of different things that we need to address, and some of these application of AI is going to be very, very critical, not just to the betterment of society, but frankly, it's even the survival of for the human race itself. So I think those will be some of the pressing challenges that we have in the coming decades.
Do you want to add on?
Yeah, I think with resource mutation, so the more critical is algorithm. So in the first wave of this AI, somehow basically it is use this quantitative computer resource to achieve some target. So moving forwards, we may more focus on how to propose the more efficient algorithm to make the AI can work in the limited computational resource.
Okay, thank you everyone. So I guess for the audience that asked this question, do not worry, we are still far away from that day to come. So I think due to time constraint, we will answer one last question from our virtual audience. So the question that our virtual audience have is that which area of AI could actually help to address the rebuilding of the society as a whole after the COVID-19. So in terms of which aspect of area, so that I think for him to have a better understanding how there is some potential in AI to help with the rebuild of this COVID-19 pandemic, the post-COVID-19. Which area you think, like maybe in terms of public health, is social inequality that might arise due to this COVID, and how does AI is able to actually address some of these problems in the post-COVID world to come?
I think I can go first, and then we'll ask
Yeah.
others to join in. So I think personally, it's hard to think of any industry where AI will not help. It's because most of our industries that we are working on today, which are important to us, are getting digitized. And the moment they get digitized, we have a lot of data. And the moment we have a lot of data, AI is the right tool or right technology to really make a big impact. No doubt, like COVID has told us the importance of health. So clearly, healthcare is gonna be a big bet in terms of how AI can help with maybe drug discovery and other such things. Manufacturing, automation, no doubt, already seeing amazing trends continuing to grow. Even things like agriculture, like some of the most traditional occupations, AI is helping immensely. So personally, I don't think there's only one, and rather I would say maybe there is none that will not be impacted. Yeah, I remember I was listening to one of Andrew Ng's talk once, and he said, someone asked him this question, that which industry will not get impacted by AI, and he said maybe hair cutting, and that's the only thing he could think of. So you can imagine, like, it is very hard to figure out what will AI not impact or not contribute to in a way.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to add on? If not, I think okay. So I think that's it for our panel discussion for tonight on the topic of AI research landscape in Singapore. So I would like to take this chance to thank all of our panelists for actually taking the time and effort to join us and answer some of your questions that you have. And hopefully through this panel discussion, you have learned something. And also in the course of the days to come, continue to pursue your passion in machine learning and data analytics. So with that, I'll hand the time back to Andrew. Andrew, please.
Thank you, Mr. Tuan and guest panelists, for the informative and exciting panel discussion. And I hope you guys also have enjoyed the panel discussion. To express our appreciation for the panelists, I would like to invite Professor Tan up on stage to present the tokens of appreciation to the panelists. Professor Tan, please. We'll start with Mr. Richard Ko from Microsoft. Next, we have Dr. Lim Keng Hui from A*STAR. Next, we have Mr. Arnold Doray from Terra AI. Next, we have Mr. Puneet Garg from Carousell. And last but not least, Associate Professor Xudong from NTU. Thank you, Professor Tan. We have now come to the end of the panel discussion, and I would like to thank the virtual audience for joining us tonight. Next, I would like to invite the virtual audience to join our virtual career booth. Please follow the instructions on this slide to join the career booth. It is my pleasure to be your MC this evening. Once again, my name is Andrew, signing off from Nanyang Auditorium.